A very good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Learning Festival today, day 7, the beginning of the second week. This week also, we have some very interesting, very exciting speakers lined up for all of you, and I'm sure all of you all are eagerly waiting for the same, so let's get started. This Learning Festival is brought to you by Crimson Education in collaboration with JGI, the Jain Group of Institutions, JIRS, the Jain International Residential School, and the Crimson Anisha Global Schools in Pune. So our session today focuses on experiential learning, and NEP 2020 also talks a lot about experiential learning. So I'm sure this is a topic each one of you wants to know more about, also wants to understand how this can actually be implemented in the classroom. And for that, to share her thoughts, we have Ms. Farzana Dohadwala. Ms. Farzana is an eminent educator, has over 30 years of experience in the teaching vertical, started a journey as a teacher, grew up to become a vice principal, then a principal of a national curriculum school. And then she was the one who brought in the revolution of international education into our country. She was the first IB representative for South Asia. And when she joined, there was only one IB school. And when she left after 20 years, there were almost 145. So she brings in this experience of both national and international curriculum, having worked with ICSE, CBSE, as well as with the IB and the Cambridge boards. Over to you, ma'am. Looking forward to a very interesting session. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone. I'm quite excited today, day 7, and the enthusiasm with all the educators is still so high. And you know why? I will tell you, because we are all change makers. We are the ambassadors of change, and we are going to bring about this new revolution in teaching learning adhering to the NEP 2020. And that's exactly what I'm going to be talking about. It's not all about IB or international or national. It's all about how do you teach and how does a student learn in your class. Experiential learning is so interesting. So without much ado, let me begin. I'll just share my screen with you all. Great. So we begin.
Ma'am, your screen is still not shared. Huh?
Oh, I can see it shared. One second. Just give me a second, please. So yes, we begin the presentation. I'm going to call all of you guys my next gen teachers. Why? Because we have to do 3 things which are very, very important for us. Imagine, innovate, and inspire. And it's so interesting that most of us are able to do it, but somehow we have these inhibitions that will I be able to be this type of a next gen teacher? So it's simple, friends. Let's imagine, can we do new things in a new way? Now, for last 100 years, education has been on this verge of this paradigm shift. What we've been doing for years is doing the old things in new ways. But today, friends, the world is changing. Education is so dynamic. So we should all change the way we teach and learn, because that is going to make our children more enthusiastic, more focused. And that's what we're going to learn today together. Look at my screen. What a lovely image. My little baby of maybe junior KG, I think this child was. And when he did this drawing and he showed it to me, and I asked him, what is it? So he said, ma'am, it's a house. I said, a house on wheels? It looks like an aeroplane to me. Yes, ma'am. This is a child from Mumbai, and we get these heavy monsoon rains. So he, with his own experience, and he's seen how everything got flooded in his house, he said, if I make a house on wheels, obviously my house won't get spoiled. And this is, see, his imagination. But we as teachers, we curb the curiosity of the child. We don't let the child blossom. And we made a big thing out of this painting of his, and he became the talk of the whole school because he was thinking out of the box from such a young age of 5 years, and this is because he had teachers who let them be out of the box thinkers. Sometimes, even in your question papers, you have taught it in a particular way, but your child responds in another way. So it's okay. What he's saying is making sense. Accept it. Don't always think, no, this is not the way I have taught it. Let them be out of the box thinkers. That's the new generation. So why should we be innovative? Why can't we just teach? You and I have learned in a particular way. And of course, you're going to tell me we've done very well for ourselves. So then what happened? But as I told you, as when we began, we are change makers. We want to see that our children change. I'm sure you've seen the movie Stanley's Dabba. It showed us how a teacher can become a change maker. Or even the other movie, Tare Zameen Par. A teacher has such an important role to play. And if we don't play that role, it's very, very difficult for our students to become, ready for the 21st century. Friends, let's become inspiring facilitators rather than didactic teachers. One bulb that enlightens many minds in your class. Let's become that type of teachers. So, what is experiential learning and why is it important? How do I facilitate it within and outside my classroom? I would love to do this, but is it possible? I have 40 kids in my class. It's very good for international schools to talk about it because they have 20 kids. Friends, it's possible in any classroom. Let's see how we can do it. So there's this very important old adage which says, tell me and I forget, show me I remember, involve me and I understand. The last part, involve me and I understand, is the essence of experiential learning. That's the most important thing, friends. Get them involved. They will love you and the learning will be very deep. According to the Association for Experimental Education, they have summed it up in 3 key phrases. What is experiential learning? Challenge your students and let them experience something. Then, after they've experienced, let them reflect upon it and apply it. And then you're leading them to growth. This is exactly what that junior KG did. Because he had experienced that heavy monsoon, when his teacher challenged him by saying, draw something which is different, he reflected on his experience. He applied it to his drawing, and that's a growth mindset, friends. So just involve your children and you will get it. I am sure this slide, it will resonate with each one of you. We have seen a lot of children in our class, who are disinterested, disengaged, not focused. So if I have a class of 40 kids, I'm sure I will have 5 children of this category. What does one do? As teachers, we get very exasperated. And why? Have you ever wondered, have you sat down by your own and think, why do these 4 children or 5 children, why don't they do it? I mean, why are they not focused? It is not because they don't understand, friends. It is not that their intellectual power is less, but it's because he hasn't experienced it or he has not made connections. Making connections is so very, very important. We as teachers, what do we usually do? We blame it on the child. He's not paying attention. He's distracted. But why is he? Let's reflect within ourselves. Have we provided a very interesting learning experience? Have we triggered that thinking in the brains? If yes, I don't think there will be any disinterested student in your class. Watch this picture, friends. Watch it very closely. There is no audio to it. This mother is showing the watch and showing a picture to her little baby. In the next picture, she's making him hear the tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Okay? See this small baby and how they learn. See in the third picture, when he sees pictures of wristwatches, he's putting his head down to hear the tick tock, tick tock. This is experiential learning. What they see, what they feel, they are going to imitate it. So this little baby thought that Every watch, whether it's a picture or real, will have the tick-tock sound. So you see, it's so interesting right from that very young age. Sometimes you say, oh, only in primary or in upper primary I can do it. You can do it right from start. It has been found, and this is the research statistics which I'm sharing, that 75% of what we do compared to 5% of what we hear and 10% of what we read. So what helps the child learn? 75% of what he does. So that's where the key is, and that's why experiential learning is so important. See this little experience, you give them a concrete experience, like what the mother gave is a watch. Let them reflect and observe about it. Then they are able to connect. And then the conceptualization happens. So that's when you connect from the concrete to the abstract. Many of our teachers make the mistake. You start teaching the abstract concept in class and you think it's so simple. It's not for the children. Give them some concrete experience, and then if you connect it to an abstract conceptualization, they will make it. And that is possible with an active experimentation, giving them actual experiences. Mahatma Gandhi ji was very much a fan of this learn by doing. He has propagated this in most of his teachings, and give the children firsthand. Even if you go back to the Guru Shishya Parampara, how did Lord Arjuna learn? The bow and arrow, he had to practice it, and he perfected it. So it's only when you experience it, you practice it, that you become good. So always move from the concrete to abstract, from the known to the unknown, from the real world to the theory. Just don't be very bookish, friends. Don't be bookish. I'll share this one video. It's a short video, and through the presentation I'm going to share. So enjoy it.
Take your computer, open it up so that everyone can see your work. We are going to do a bean critique.
So the bean critique is one way of students giving feedback and receiving it. When a peer gives them feedback, they think about it a little bit more and they're more accepting. So the students are given 2 beans.
You will go around and you will look at each person's webpage. And I only want you thinking about the aesthetic look, color, font family, size, and the text alignment.
They will observe all the pieces, and then after they've seen all of the work, they place 2 beans on one person's work, or you can pick 2 people's work. And then we look at the pieces that receive the most beans.
I thought it was really colorful. The fonts draw you in a bit more.
The students are seeing work that meets a goal and how they can change their work so that it is better meeting the goal.
So you see, friends, in this, it was important that the children had this beautiful experience of doing the bean critique,
Take your computer.
Ma'am, you need to unmute.
So in this bean critique, which you saw, what happened? It was simple, but this is what we call as peer learning. And that's experience, because only if the teacher corrects the child or says you're very good, children get bored. But when you involve the children, so the children were moving from table to table, they were watching the screens or maybe an exercise book of their child. They were given 2 beans. They had to put on wherever they thought it was an interesting thing that they did. And in this video, later on, they show how then they talk about it. They communicate about it, what they like. So this is what we say as constructive criticism. So what is experiential learning activity and how is it helpful? It helps the child to remain focused. So students who are engaged and are learning actively, they are not going to become bored. You know what I talked about, the bored children in your class? If you have activities, learning, engagements, it's not more an activity, it's a learning engagement. Your children will never ever get bored. You teach them differently, involve them in the process, and the more emotionally they are involved, they will learn much better, because children are very emotional, and if they feel, oh, I have got a role to play, I'm going to play, they get involved. And by default, in the bean, they moved through so many tables, they read about so many things that their friends had written. So their learning enhanced. And also they had a part like a teacher to be able to assess the work of their friends. Another important thing is they learn very fast, because it's critical thinking and deep learning, So this engagement of the child, he's accelerated in his learning, and of course he improves the content retention. Because if you ask a child to memorize something and then the next day you ask him, he will know it. After 5 days you ask him, no, he's forgotten about it. I know I used to tell my mother, it's over, the test is over, I finished it, Ma, don't ask me. But today's child, it's a spiral development, a spiral growth. And in that, every child builds on what he's learned in the next class, in the next unit. And that's what we call transdisciplinary learning. Why has my screen got stuck again?
Ma'am, we can see your screen. I think.
No, the next slide, it's not moving to my next slide.
It's not moved yet. So maybe you can stop sharing and then again.
I'm doing that only. So there are, till my, it's getting sorted, I just want to tell you, there are different ways that you can involve your children and you can do things, and that's experiential learning. It's not something, it's not like a very difficult task which is being given to you, but it's a task which the children are taking part in it. And that's what makes it so interesting for the children, And if you see, can you see my screen now, friends? Can you all see my screen? Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Okay, fine. So we move to the next. So if you see this learn by doing, see the focus of this child, friends. He is doing something about soils out in the ground, and see how well focused he is, And there will be no mischief, there will be no pushing and rushing, because he's so focused in his learning. And this is the focus which is very important for each one of us, So let's take an example of learning to ride a bicycle. Isn't it interesting? So there are 4 types of children and 4 types of teaching that we can do. One is a reflective observation. So the child is thinking about riding and he watches the other child riding his bike. Reflective, he's thinking about it. There is another one who's abstract conceptualization. He's trying to understand the theory, how is the balance, how do I move my the pedals. So he's trying to understand the biking concept. There is a third way, and that's a concrete experience that he receives tips from a biking expert. But which is the best way, friends? The best way is active experimentation. When you actually jump onto a bike and you start riding, you will fall. But that experience of how to balance, what to do. So you see, between the 4, what would be the best experience, friends? Obviously, it would be active participation, experimentation. So that's what experiential learning is. And that's where, if you were to talk about something and give them a concrete experience about any concept, it won't be so interesting, friends. But if you get them involved and tell them, like I showed you in the earlier slide, they were learning about soils and how they were actually looking at different types and what is the feel, the texture, they will never forget anything that they have learned about soils. So what is the difference between the two, between a traditional learning activity and an experiential learning activity? In a traditional classroom, like how you and I had learned, it was always very teacher-centered and focused. My teacher would talk and I would listen, I would sit up, and nobody cared whether I actually understood or not. While in an experiential learning classroom, student-centered and the student is very focused. Another thing, the learning outcomes are prescribed, they're given to you. And there is a fixed scoring system. So if you give 3 points, you will get 3 marks. While here, the learning outcomes are very flexible and they are open. Why? Because every child will explain his concept in a different way. So there can be one rubric to match the responses of all the children. What is the aim in a traditional classroom? Is to explain knowledge and skills by transferring information. So I know a lot of stuff and I explain it to my children. Does this help? This is like, I can go onto the internet, and why do I need a teacher? My teacher would be one who will develop the knowledge and skills through experience in me. So that biking concept example which I gave you, I'll have an actual bike and I will try to ride the bicycle, and I will learn through experience and what is the skills that I need. How do I brake? What is the speed? I will learn through experience. And that I will never forget. Friends, all those who know swimming, I may have not gone swimming, say, since a year now because of COVID, but tomorrow if it opens and if I jump into the pool, I'm able to swim. Why? Because I have learned it, experienced it, and it was not a theory which some teacher told me, you have to jump, you have to move your arms like that, The last is, it's a very fixed structure. It's very concretized, while here it's very flexible. So sometimes when I plan, friends, and even when you plan in your classrooms, and you plan something and the children are not interested in that, move on. If I'm teaching something about marine life and I'm teaching something about sharks, they're not interested. They're more interested in dolphins, because one friend has seen a dolphin show in Singapore. So he's talking about it. So, and see, he's experienced it. So he wants to talk about it. I will not say, sorry, that's not part of my syllabus, not part of my lesson plan. I will say, great, let's talk about dolphins. And then slowly I will meander them and bring them back to my shark topic, which I want to teach. So the curiosity, the inquiring which is in your child, don't curb it by saying this is not in the syllabus. So how will you start using experiential learning activities in your classrooms? I want to share some examples to help you to understand. It's as simple as, I'm sure most of you all have done it, is planting a seed. Rather than learning how a plant grows and it needs oxygen, it needs sunlight, it needs carbon dioxide. Instead of saying all these things, what did you all do, friends? You all said, let's pot a plant in the class. And then let's observe the growth. Experiential learning. The children learned every day. They would come to the windowsill and measure. Miss, it's grown. Miss, it's 1 more inch taller. Oh, miss, last evening then the teacher says, don't worry, I had told the peon to water our plant. So this is something which you've always been doing. And all activities, experiential activities are very easy to do. They are not rocket science, friends. So don't worry, will I be? I'll give you one other example. And this is called chain notes. What you need to do in chain notes, friends, is to write an open-ended question on an A4 size paper. Okay? You hand it over to your first student to write a response. So you put a question, but it has to be open-ended, friends. And then he writes his response, passes it on, and it's a chain. So that one piece of paper is like a chain and it moves around. Then why is this activity what is the purpose? The purpose is it's very effective. One, encouraging students, particularly those who don't, you the shy ones, the ones who are introvertish, they don't want to answer in class. It's, the hand, I'm sure all of you know in your class, there will be these 10 kids who will want to interact. So here, every child has to interact in the chain notes, okay? Also, for you as a teacher, it's your own reflection. It gauges whether your children have understood what you have taught them, And from a student, so it's got a teacher's perspective, the chain notes, as well as a student perspective, because the students also will be able to read the chain reactions of all their friends, And then at the end of the exercise, you can pin it up on your board. So in the break, whenever the children can read everybody's responses to this open-ended question. Do try this out. It's called chain notes. And there are lots of ideas on the internet. Do try it. It's a great experiential way of learning. Now let's look at some learning activities in English. I want to give you examples because teachers sometimes feel, I can't do anything in English. English is so bookish. So there is something called the pro and con grid. What is that? So if you have given them an lesson, an assignment, after that, identify one topic which is open-ended. All these things need open-ended things, and then tell them to write the advantages and the disadvantages of that topic, and then they as a group can then present it. So the communication skills happen, their confidence is increased, and their learning group dynamics. So it's experience. And then they will always, and see, I may have 5 ideas of advantages, but when I hear my class, the 5 groups talking, I hear of so many different examples. Another one is cross-age peer tutoring. This is really fun, and we've tried it, like we had senior KG children, and we would get a grade 2 or 3, and a library class was combined. So the grade 2 or 3 can come and talk with your senior KG children, or you can do reverse. Your grade 3 and 4, the 5th and 6th could come, and they read aloud or they read together. See, the tutor, he feels very proud. I'm a teacher, you don't know this word, it's pronounced, it means this, whatever. And for the tutee, it's learning. You're so bored of learning only from your teacher. So this cross-age peer tutoring works a lot, friends. Do try it, especially in your reading classes. Another is very, very interesting, is the student generated test questions. So all the times, what do? We create the test for the children. Let's reverse the rules. Let's just flip it. What do we do in this? We tell our children, we finished the lesson. Now you all generate questions and post it to me or email them to me. And from all those questions, you can create a test for the children. So imagine your students are now creating their own tests, and they will feel so much the onus. Wow, it's a test which we've created. It's hard. Why? Because we created it. It will not be miss. You always give us tough questions, challenging questions. So you see, these things help a lot. Now let's take another one, experiential learning in science and geography. Take your children out of the classroom. And COVID times is not what I'm saying. I'm talking about normal times, and just take your students outside or take them on a field trip, anything. When you're teaching something in science about plants, soil types, rock formations, shadows cast by the sun, let them experience it. If they experience it, they feel it, they touch it, they will learn more. So I'm going to share one more video with you all, which will help you all to understand.
So at this point, we're going to share our responses. Remember to use your participation cards.
So participation cards are a set of index cards which have labels on them. I agree, I disagree, or I don't know how to respond. We use them to assess students' understanding, but we also use them to give students voice. So I first pose a question.
What was the summary of this excerpt?
The summary of these 2 pages is that Mrs. Wise is setting Jasmine up to fail.
Scholars will listen to the responses and then they will use their participation cards.
I respectfully disagree with you. What can the reader infer about Ms. Wise based on paragraph 2?
We obviously cannot have 24 scholars speaking at the same time, but we want everyone to feel their ideas matter. Even if I am very shy and I don't feel comfortable, my voice was still heard.
So you see, friends, what happened in these participation cards? It's so simple to make it, just take some cards and write some sentences to our children. What happens then, friends, is your whole class. So if you say I have a class of 30 kids, I can't do all these things. Of course you can. Divide them into groups and one person presents, then they all listen to his presentation and then they raise their participation card, whether they agree, they disagree, whatever. So you're giving them, that the new nomenclature today is voice and choice. Student voices, student choices. This is what you're giving them. So you're making the class very experiential, all are learning together, and it's fun-filled. And there will be no child left behind. There will be no bored students in the class because everybody has to participate. Okay. Now let's do something else in another class. We call it the scavenger hunt. So what happens in this? There's a little friendly competition involved. You divide the children into groups and set them out to search for things, and based on a list you have given them, and it is based on the topic you're doing or based on the concept you're teaching them. They will enjoy it. They will, and it's okay. Kinesthetic learners will love your scavenger hunt because they're running around, they're finding things, they're bringing it back, ticking it. And then at the end of that class, they're going to present it and each group. So in most of these experiential activities, it's group work. So the children work in a group. Friends, it's been, the corporates, they're spending crores of rupees on what? On team building, constructive criticism. We are teaching that to our children in our classrooms. So why not? It's going to help them in their future. We are making them future ready, friends. We are making them future ready. So like, I'll give you an example what a scavenger hunt could be. For the younger grades, it will be go find rocks. You take them on a field trip, nature walk. They can find rocks, leaves, bark, sticks, feathers. Also, then they come back to class. The younger class could do it into shapes, color, texture. Then they could take pictures. They can glue it on a paper. They can make it into their project file, anything. So that depends on the teacher and how, and of course on the children's voice, what they want to do with the research and the things, the data that they have collected. They can then say how many have collected stones, convert it into a maths bar diagram, put it into that, and they're learning maths also. So, multiple, this thing about experiential learning, friends, is that it is also transdisciplinary. So the teacher can connect subjects when she's teaching, because she's also teaching math, she's teaching science, and maybe the art teacher can get involved. Okay, friends, all the pine cones and all the leaves that you have picked up, let's keep them in a box. In the next class, we're going to do nature drawing. So you see, teachers can also connect together in this experiential learning adventure of ours. Now, how do we learn in history? Let's take an example in history. Let's take some classes where they are learning about archaeologists. They are learning. So what they do usually is maybe a day before, the teacher sets up a pot with all the broken spoon, one earring, something which is all broken. She covers it with mud. The next day morning, she says, now we are going on an expedition. She doesn't tell them it's you're archaeologists, nothing. And she gives them gloves, and she goes taking groups, again groups. They go there and, oh, wow, you found a spoon. Click, 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 photo. Keep it where? What was the time you found it? Let's write the date and time. They do that, they bring it to class, and then they lay down. And that's when the teacher introduces the topic of archaeology. Who is an archaeologist? How does an archaeologist work? It's so deep learning. The child will never forget because he's learned it through an experience, friends. Now let's take an example in maths. Baking a cake. Wow. Take your children off to your cafeteria, or maybe some parent is willing to invite you all to their home. Take your kids there, and they practice, they learn about the ingredients, the measurements, and then they also keep track of the time. They have to bake it in 45 minutes. They also are learning backward counting, because if it's in a micro, they are seeing 30, 29, 28, depending on the age. And of course, at the end, it's so interesting because they're going to eat the cake. They love it. Let's take another example, math memory. You can do a math problem with a solution, so that their memory skills also. Sometimes I can create two cards, and the children have to run around and find the matching partner. So if it is, I've given them, like we are learning tables, so 7 twos are, another child has the answer 14. They match together and they come as partners to you. There is fun, kinesthetic learners are enjoying, they are revising tables. Otherwise, how do we revise tables? 2 ones are 2, 2 twos are 4. It's rote. Make it fun, friends. They know it. Now you're revising. So in revision, please give them, they're jumping up the steps. If they're jumping up the staircase, if your school has staircase, you can do your odds and evens. 2, 4, 6, 8, count the steps, how many even, how many odd, whatever. You can do so much using the Bala concept. What is the Bala concept? Using the building as a learning aid. So you can use your whole school environment to teach so many subjects. Math, science, geography, everything. I've seen in one school where I have gone, the door had a protractor drawn on the floor. So when the teacher would open and they are learning geometry, how many degrees did I open my door? Is it an acute angle? Is it an obtuse angle? So use your environment, use your school to learn. Experience. Candy graph, what do you like? Who likes silk? Who likes, an Amul chocolate, whatever. Name 2, 3 chocolates which children love, and then draw a graph based on what are their choices. Interesting maths bar diagram, draw pie diagram. So it is not you're teaching maths, but they think it's fun. We are learning who likes more of what, Sunrise and sunset. I'm sure children never pick up the newspaper and see the sunrise time and the sunset time. Get a habit. Bring the newspaper from your library, even the old newspapers. Share it in groups and say, now, can you find out on the 20th, what was the sunrise time and the sunset time? Okay, now, can you calculate a little bigger class? Can you calculate the length of the day? When did you have the longest day? When you have the longest day, that is the time you should do this activity for 2-3 days. And they'll realize, yes, miss, this is the longest day in the whole year. Wow, they'll never forget it. Younger class, we can do necklace making. So give them a string, give them beads, big beads, and they wear it. And oh, they're so happy. But they've counted, they've done a pattern. You can do so many multiple things with a fun experience, symmetrical design. Draw half a design and tell them complete it, and they are so perfectionist. Even if it goes 1 centimeter here, miss, I think I need an eraser, because they understand symmetry. But if you are teaching it on a board and you're talking about it, the clever ones will pick it up. I'm not saying no. But if you want it to go to your last child, let them experience it. This is one school in Singapore.
In primary ones, mostly kids are so nervous about learning about maths. After they go through all these games, they're much more relaxed and they learn more and they are excited to know more about maths. Now they have more opportunity to get to hands-on games and learn through games for maths, these sort of things. But our time doesn't have these sort of things.
Manipulative such as fraction lists, multiplication and division card. It makes it more fun and math lessons will be much less boring.
Yeah, we play a lot of games and it's even better than last year's.
P1 he doesn't like maths, but now he's very excited and he loves maths also, and he's learning more.
I can count money faster. If I'm very hungry, I can just go and give the auntie the money and get the food quickly.
For all these activities that we are doing in the school, we felt that the children are better engaged, and because of their better engagement, we felt that they have developed more positive attitudes towards their learning. So one of the example would be we teach mathematics through songs. The other way is to use a storybook to teach problem sums in the classrooms. The teacher used a wide range of pedagogies in the class. One of the key pedagogy is also the activity-based lessons in the classrooms. So pupils are engaged in learning by doing activities. The other programs that we have is to have maths games in the school. There are 2 types of games that they play. One is the maths stations that they have every Wednesday. The other will be the maths games day that we organize for the children. We basically want to inject fun in learning for the children. So PE elements such as running, hopping are actually incorporated in our maths games, where we also design the games such that it is related to their classroom learning. What is important is how the children are learning and how they are being engaged in the classroom so that they become better learners in mathematics.
So you see, in this particular school in Singapore, they use P, they used a lot of manipulatives. Many times people tell me, I'm a small rural school and, I won't have these fancy. I tell them, pick up stones. Let them play with stones, with pebbles. That doesn't cost us. It's just a little effort on our part to take a bag and collect some stones. If there is a construction site near our school, pick up some bricks or pick up some wood pieces. Of course, we scrape it and get one of our didis to make it soft so that it doesn't hurt. But it's not necessary to have fancy resources. It's necessary to have resources. They could be cheap resources which we could use in our own classrooms. So when you gamify things, children learn better. And especially in maths, friends, because there are some kids who love maths, but if you see in middle school, by the time they reach 6 and 7, you have an equal divide. Some who love it, some who don't. Now, those are the ones who don't, are the ones who've never had a good foundation in mathematics. So my earnest request to all you teachers who teach maths, use some interesting manipulatives in your classroom. Now, I have another thing, like we can do it in geography. So the gamification helps the child to get very excited about learning. So we have these cards which we make in our school. One says, I'm a piece of land surrounded by water on all sides. The other card says, I am an island. Now the children have to move between one another and find the right answer, find the right pair. This is a revision exercise after they have learned land forms. So instead of giving them a paper test in which they write an island is dash, match the column, give them a game. They will enjoy it and they will never forget it. And if they don't remember it, the second partner will tell them, hey, I'm your friend, let's meet together and let's run, What is a value? They'll connect and they'll come to the teacher. So such things help you. There are lots, if you do an internet search on I have, who has, there are lots of games on I have, who has, and you can use it different age levels. Please use these. It will help you a lot. Now, what is the advantage of gamifying things in your classroom? Make it fun. It allows students to become co-designers, because sometimes they will say, no, miss, we won't play it like this. Let's play it like that. Fine, you are the boss. It's a student-led classroom, we'll play. It allows them second chance, third chance. Usually in a paper test, if I get it wrong, what is an island? I'm wrong. But here my other friend who knows the definition, my partner comes, catches me, and we go second chance. And instant feedback. If I know the answer, I meet my friend and I reach, instant feedback. I know my answer. It's right. Also, it makes progress visible, because you are able, the teacher is also able to see whether my children have understood this concept of landform. If they are all struggling, I know I have to go back, I have to teach and maybe play this game again, Also create challenges, give them some more difficult tasks to do. It gives students voice and choice. This is something all of you please do, is to give students voices and choices. You can give them badges, rewards, stickers, smiley, anything, but the kids get very, very motivated, And of course, you have to use technology if you want to use, because there are lots of apps. Once the children come back into a physical classroom, you could have it in the PE class. You could also have it in the ICT class. You can invite your ICT teacher and you can do a lot of educational apps in your classroom, which are very gamified, So friends, it's okay if I don't know. Embrace failure. Emphasize on practice. Practice makes you perfect. So I did not know what was an island, but when my friend came and shared it with me and we moved together, I practiced and I will not forget. So practice makes you perfect. I would like you all to take a screenshot, and I would love you all to see these 2 YouTube videos that I think are very, very interesting. Engage Experiential Education by Jess Lembrecht and Reinventing Experiential Learning by Martin Lana. These are 2 great TED Talks. If as teachers you really want to grow, I would really request you to watch these 2 YouTube videos, and it will help you. It will give you many more ideas than what I have shared with you. Can I move on? Now, this is another video which I am sharing with you, and it's very
You have 3 minutes for your tag feedback. T, tell something you like. A, ask a question. G, give a suggestion.
TAG is our school-wide critique process. It's a very quick, formative way to say, hey, this is what you did great, and here are your next steps. At the completion of a lesson, they select which work they want to critique. We have a tag protocol sheet to write their feedback. You always want to start with a positive, something that the student did well. Then A, ask a question.
You have 3 minutes for your tag feedback. T, tell something you like. A, ask a question. G, give a suggestion.
TAG is our school-wide critique process. It's a very quick, formative way to say, hey, this is what you did great, and here are your next steps. At the completion of a lesson, they select which work they want to critique. We have a tag protocol sheet to write their feedback. You always want to start with a positive, something that the student did well. Then A, ask a question. Why did you make this decision? How did you do that? And then G, give a suggestion, what they can do to improve their work. They share out their feedback and their next steps.
I like how Sebastian did the sky behind the buildings.
When they come in for their next session, they're all ready to go applying feedback.
you see, friends, what was TAG? TAG was 3 letters acronym. T stands for tell. Tell something that you really liked, what you liked in your friends. It's a critique. So when you swap papers, your friend, you make a worksheet initially, or you can do it with your children on a board, so they can understand what you're asking them to do. T tell something. So always you start with a positive. Even when it is report day, I always tell the worst child who doesn't know anything, I tell them something good. So you start with the positive, then you ask them, why did you do this in this particular way? So you ask. T, tell, A, ask, and G, give them a suggestion. You know, instead of this was great, but could you have done it like that? So this is called peer critique tag. Do use this because it's very, very interesting. So friends shared a lot of examples with you, lots of ideas. So where do we need to go from here? The door is open for you to now walk outside the door and start becoming experiential educators. And this is something which I always share with my children, you know, 2 stars and a wish. What I like, what I enjoyed, what I learned, I used, I wrote, and I'm proud of myself. But what was the wish? I would like that. That was difficult. I tried to use it. I would like help with. If you want to take a picture of this, 2 stars and a wish is something you could write, Xerox it, and after any activity, you could share this with your children. So this becomes a reflection sheet for you. What you did, what was your goal? Have you achieved it or not? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It was such an interesting session. And, you know, just like we're seeing in the chat box, you know, a lot of takeaways for all our participants. We do have some time. If any of you all have any questions, I've just given you permission. You can unmute yourself or you could post your query in the chat box. If also you would like to share some strategies that have worked well for you, you could also share that with everyone so that it can benefit all the participants. You know, at the end, we are an entire teaching community and it's all about learning, sharing and growing together.
First, here Anita from Delhi. Thank you so much, ma'am. And first of all, I thanks, sir, to organize such a great seminars to all of you. And most important thing is that I get my solution today, ma'am. That for a long time I am so worried. How can I get solution to help my students? As because I am a social science teacher, it's too difficult on my part to that everyone not take active participation. That's why I'm so worried. But only this session helped me a lot to bring all the students in a one bag. Thank you so much once again. Namaskar, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Friends, I've also shared the attendance link multiple times in the chat. So please ensure you fill in your attendance before 6 p.m. today. Till we get some questions, I'll just want to remind you, tomorrow we have Miss Seema Sheikh. She's part of this, she's a school ambassador with the British Council. She'll be leading a session on international dimension in learning. How do we bring that into our classrooms? So it's really interesting. Do join us tomorrow also. Same time, that would be our 8th session, part of the 2nd week of the Learning Festival.
Hussein, I think Ishwari, I can see someone has raised their hand. Maybe.
Yes, Miss Ishwari, you can please unmute yourself. If you could just introduce yourself and which school you're from, and then ask Miss Farzana your question. And probably she has some network issue. If you could even post it in the chat box, that's fine. Miss Ishwari, can you hear us? I guess she's having some network issues, yes.
For me, from my end, I would like to tell everyone, please try it. Be a risk taker. That's an important quality every teacher should have. If you risk it, you will win it. So don't shy away. Others can do, I can't do. Risk it. We've all not grown from a mother's tummy and learned all this. We've all experienced it. We've risked it. and we've learned it.
So I think, ma'am, there's one question is, given the challenges of the syllabus prescribed by the board, be it CBSE or, the state curriculum, how can these activities be integrated? Because some of these activities may take some more time to, get done. So probably in terms of, I think the question is in terms of, the time management.
So I think, it's not a question of time management. It's a question of planning it. Because my worry is when you're trying to teach a very difficult concept all by yourself and you are expecting that and then give them a test, it will not work. Instead of that same time, if you give them an experience and then maybe do like a tag session, you will understand everything, whether your children have understood and whether you need to do a reteaching. So it's all about planning it well, friends. It's not about the time constraint, because all teachers have a syllabus. All teachers are teaching to an exam. So just try it. I'm saying begin piecemeal and hopefully you should do better.
So I think we can call it a wrap. Yes, okay, there's one more question. The question is more about, bringing experiential learning in the senior secondary section or in the high school section, specifically with reference to mathematics or history.
I didn't hear it. Can you repeat it, please? उधर पीछे कुछ मेरा दब गया है क्या? Hello? Hello?
Yeah. The question is posted in the chat.
Yeah, I'll just read it.
Yes. How do you bring in experiential learning more in the senior secondary section?
Okay. Even in senior secondary section, that's you're talking about grade 11th and 12th. I am sure one thing that would work very well is the peer tutoring, because then whatever concepts they have learned, and if you think that concept is very important to build up in your class in grade 11, and they're also doing it in 9 and 10, but through a lesser degree, let them do a peer tutoring. So you don't have to do a recap. It's happening in their peer tutoring class. Another great way would be to use your PE classrooms. Your PE sir and you could join together, especially if you're teaching a mathematics program, and you all could do these very complex equations and stuff like that. And together they solve it and they are able to run around. So it helps your child to learn. So I think it will be a transitory one where you will have to connect with your other teachers, either lower classes or in across that. So it's both a vertical and horizontal, which will help you.
Okay, thank you so much, madam. Actually, I asked this question because normally when we ask our mathematics teachers or history teachers, they say that, madam, syllabus is too high, like each and every chapter, we can't bring experiential learning with that. So integration, trigonometry, there are many such chapters where it's very difficult to bring experiential learning. So I asked, like, in what way we can do that. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Welcome. Thank you.
I think we can call it a wrap. Thank you, Farzana ma'am, for a very insightful, interesting session, and for all the, all the videos. I think the video is really very interesting. Just helps in, when you see, a strategy in action, it really, ensures that everyone can actually follow it and implement it. Thank you so much. Thank you, participants, for joining us, and see all of you tomorrow. Take care. Bye-bye. Stay safe. Stay healthy.
Thank you.